Cubs make a roster move. Jose Caus, who had been struggling, is sent to Iowa, and now we know who the responding pitcher is going to be to the bullpen, and it's Keegan Thompson. So we'll talk about Keegan Thompson. The Cubs also made a trade. We'll get into that. Very small trade, but they're all significant anytime you make a deal with another team. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, and let's get this thing started. Go Cubs, everybody. Say everybody, Mick Gillespie here on the Cubs Baseball channel, and I told you, hey, if some news breaks, we'll jump on and tell you about it, and some news has broken at Broadcaster Mick on the socials. The news is, first off, that Jose Caus optioned to Iowa. 3 options remaining, was really struggling, having allowed runs in 4 straight games, a 12 ERA, and other options, and we talked about it, were better than what he was in the major leagues. Now, this doesn't mean that you give up on Jose Caus. It's just that the pitches were left over the plate and they were hit awful hard. And it was just time that the Cubs went into the minor leagues and pulled somebody up. And guys who they could pull up that were on the 40-man roster, to me, it came down to Keegan Thompson and Hayden Wesneski. And we know that it was Keegan Thompson that they went with. We'll talk about Wesneski, but Keegan Thompson in his career, remember, it was a few years ago that he was a real breath of fresh air coming out of the minor leagues. His career stats over 3 years are good, 15-10 record, a 3.79 ERA for the former Auburn Tiger. Last year, limited action, only 19 games, 2-2 record, and a 4.71 earned run average. You know, I was thinking like, injury-wise, should be pretty healthy. Got him with a shoulder in 2021 a couple of times, a back. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that this is a guy that's ready to jump in there and get things done. This year in Iowa, no wins or losses, and had an earned run average of, 4.05 in 6 games, all relief games for the Iowa Cubs. So he's already pitched 6 times, but 6 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs, 7 hits, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. And I'm sure that's a number right there that the Cubs really like. They just don't want someone coming up and walking a bunch of batters. So it's Keegan Thompson, and he'll be in Seattle tonight for the Cubs. Now, Hayden Wesneski was not picked this time. Now, I think eventually he will be up, and some people felt like he would be the move that the Cubs would make here. It felt like he was the last guy not to make the team during spring training. Last year, Wesneski 6-7, 3.97 ERA. This year with Iowa, just about the same as Thompson. No wins or losses, a 4.26 ERA, both right-handers. Wesneski, though, I'm thinking is going to be more of someone that the Cubs would probably want as a starter, maybe long relief. And it feels like, with Thompson, he's just more of a straight reliever for the Cubs. And, going back to Quas, I've talked about this before with some of you guys in the comment section. You guys get into this. This was a trade the Cubs made at the deadline last year for Nelson Velasquez. And I'm telling you, and you can go look at the stats, Velasquez, is batting over 300 with a couple home runs and 8 RBIs. He's a really, really, really good player. And for Quas, got to keep the ball in the park, and he's a side armor, and I like those side armors. I mean, because those guys can come in and they can throw a lot of innings, but everything's out over the plate right now. So they've got to get Quas right to get the value that they need out of him, and also so that this trade doesn't look worse than it already does to me, having seen what Velasquez can do, what he's capable of, and I think what he's going to eventually do in the major leagues. And so far, to me, Quas has just been a very middle-of-the-road reliever, and I think that Velasquez could be one of baseball's best sluggers. Cubs made a trade, and it's a very small trade, but the reason why these trades and why we're paying attention to it is this. There's not a lot of depth catching wise in the Cubs minor league system that you could say, hey, tomorrow, if we need someone, this guy's ready to go. And then at the major leagues, I think we all are very high on Yan Gomes. We should be. Problem is he's 37 years old. Now, who knows? Maybe he's going to be one of these guys that plays as catcher for a long time, and that's happened. Johnny Bench seemed like he was in the game forever. Carlton Fisk, the old White Sox. I mean, he never left, right? I think he's probably still catching somewhere. Yogi Berra. I don't know, but it's a tough position on your body with your knees. And I feel like the drop off after him is very steep. So it goes from him to, a very young catcher. And then all of a sudden, what you have in the minor leagues. Now, Miguel Amaya, who's at the major league level right now, has a lot of talent and can eventually he be the guy that steps up and is a reliable starting catcher? Yeah. And I think he's got the talent to do that. But if you had to rely on him every day, I just don't think that the outcome would be the same as having Yan Gomes, knowing how to call pitches, knowing the league, and defensively being very good. So what the Cubs have done is that they just invited all these catchers to spring training. And then they eventually settled on Joe Hudson as the veteran backup, right? Well, then after camp ended, Curt Casali, a former major leaguer and a good player, was available. They signed him. And then Ali Sánchez, again, a guy who was just on a prospect list a few years ago. He became available and they signed him. So now you had 4 catchers with Bryce Windham. And so they trade Joe Hudson to the Mets. And I think that they like Sánchez and they like Casali as that insurance policy at the catcher spot moving forward. And Yan Gomes has been great. And then you got these 2 guys available. And if you remember, it was, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago that all of those catchers kept getting hurt for the Cubs. And they were into the 6th guy, 7th guy in the minor leagues to pull up and play. And some guys got into the major leagues that might never get there again. But it was like Tyler Payne, who we love, got a cup of coffee, and just an example of showing up, being at the right place at the right time. But it also kind of goes to show that you have to have depth, and that's a really important position on the team. So that's where we are right now. Just a quick update. Cubs take on the Mariners tonight. We'll be covering that for you as well. Game's going to be on Apple TV. So who knows what that's going to be like, but we'll check it out. And then tomorrow we'll have a show for you. But the news is this: the roster move finally made. And it is that Jose Caus was optioned yesterday to Iowa, and that Keegan Thompson will take his spot in the Cubs bullpen. And that's how this thing's going to roll. Thanks for hanging out with us. Like and subscribe. All of you guys that are hanging out with us in the comments section, appreciate it. I will answer one of these questions for you guys. And it is, hey, Frank LaSala, Eric Castillo, another one of those catchers, along with Tyler Payne, that got to the big leagues. Wisdom. This is a move that the Cubs are probably going to have to figure out sometime soon. He is terrorizing pitching in AAA. I mean, I'm talking about hitting massive home runs with monster exit velo. I don't know what the move's going to be there either, because you just have a very limited amount of roster. So do you put Wisdom in the big leagues and get rid of Garrett Cooper? Do you switch Wisdom with Miles Mastrobuoni, who I feel like gives you a lot outside of maybe not being a power hitter, but he can play infield, he can play outfield, he can run. And that's something that you don't get from Wisdom. You just get home runs. So right now, that's Wisdom still in Iowa. And I'm not sure what that move's going to be, but it is something that we're keeping an eye on. But thank all of you guys for hanging out with us. And again, we will talk to you really soon right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Go Cubs.